Okay. I want to teach the world how to deal with the topic of sexual violence. Before the Me Too era, talking about sexual violence was something society saw as an issue. Ironic, I know. We were silent as women, men, and children were suffering all around the world. We were silent as millions were suffering because we made them feel alone. It wasn't until people were brave enough to speak out that the society was aware of the impacts that sexual violence leaves on a person. One of the top impacts of the Me Too era is the heightened public awareness and sensitivity to the issues of sexual violence and sexual assault, both in the United States and all around the world. This movement was so powerful that it changed the way Americans think about power. One of the biggest effects of the Me Too movement has been to show Americans and people around the world how powerful sexual violence is. Sexual violence is not just about sexual assault, it's about abuse, neglect, violence, abuse, abuse of co-workers, children, parents, and friends. All this has helped to change how Americans think not just about sexual misconduct, but about gender and power. Those changes were especially evident in the Americans' reaction to the confirmation hearing of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who was accused of sexual assault by Christine Blasey Ford. According to a December 2018 poll by the research firm of Perry Undum, these hearings made 50% of voters think about men having more power in government than women. Yet, that still isn't enough. Okay, don't get me wrong. Awareness and global recognition are both huge accomplishment, but what comes after that? Yes, we know that it's an issue, but now what? I started a podcast to help survivors of sexual assault and allies kind of heal and educate them about this issue. One of the biggest questions I asked myself when starting this was why and what? Why was I doing this? What was I trying to do? So I sat down with my thoughts, wrote it all down, thought about it. And it took me a while to answer those two things. And once I finally did, it everything just started to click. It was like fireworks going off. See, my why didn't only come from a personal experience. It came from seeing how those who know survivor of sexual violence never really know how to react or help the survivor. And to be honest, I don't blame them. See, for them, it's like this. They see that this is an issue. They see that what happened was tragic and traumatizing. They see that the person that they care about is hurting, but yet they don't know how to react. That's because society doesn't really give them a way to react. Society doesn't really tell them how we're supposed to be there for these survivors of sexual violence. I wanted to help survivors and allies of sexual violence. I wanted to create a safe space, a place where they felt as if they weren't being judged, a place where they can come to as kind of reassurance and for kind of that education to help survivors and to help survivors of sexual violence and to help educate themselves. My what was probably the hardest to figure out. What did I want my audience to take away from each episode? I understood that if they were even willing to hit play on my podcast, they were looking to create change. They were looking to educate themselves, which is a huge thing. So I thought, why not explain little things that make life easier for survivors? I plan on having different people come onto the podcast, voice their opinions, because I realize at the end of the day, this isn't just about me. Because knowing about an issue is one thing, but doing your part to help kind of lessen the effects of the issue is another thing. No matter how small your actions are, an impact is an impact. People who have been sexually assaulted often experience a range of emotions and reaction, and no two survivors of sexual assault feel the exact same way about their experience. But there are a few things you can do to help. One of the biggest ones being believing them. I cannot stress enough how much of a big deal this is. The simple words such as "I believe you," that goes a long way to a survivor. Another thing is kind of don't express skepticism, don't poke holes in their story, listen to them, be there for them. And I know that sounds like such a small thing to do, but I can reassure you it goes a long way. Offer them your support, your time. Let them know that they're not alone. And that is how I plan to teach the world to deal with the topic of sexual violence. Thank you.